One of the main challenges of the online learning environment involves cognitive overload. Cognitive overload arises when a learner's working memory, which has a limited capacity, becomes overtaxed and prevents the learner from being able to access long-term memory, which has a greater capacity. Educational psychologists have identified 6 closely related and sometimes overlapping principles involved with cognitive overload. By the end of this screencast, you will learn about these 6 principles. You will be able to recognize and be sensitive to sources of cognitive overload, and you will be able to take steps to reduce cognitive overload when creating and delivering online tutorials to your students. The split attention principle says that students learn better when instruction material does not require them to split their attention between multiple sources of information. Therefore, you should foreshadow what lies ahead by providing an introduction about what the students will be learning. You may also want to cover any unfamiliar terms that are important to get that out of the way up front. This is called pre-training. Finally, you should use arrows and other graphic cues to clarify important points or confusing images. This is called signaling. Don't be this guy. The modality principle says that students learn better when information is narrated rather than presented as on-screen text. Therefore, you should use narration with no or minimal on-screen text, so students do not have to listen and read a lot of text at the same time. This is called offloading. Of course, you can offer your visually oriented learners modified PDFs or slides that contain more text. However, use minimal text in the online presentation itself. The redundancy principle says that students learn better from animation and narration than they do from animation, narration, and text. Therefore, you should remove any redundant text or images being already covered in the narration. The coherence principle says that students learn better when extraneous material is excluded. Therefore, you should weed out any unnecessary audio or visual elements. The spatial continuity principle says that students learn better when on-screen text and images are physically integrated rather than separated. Therefore, make sure that any related on-screen text and images are shown physically close together. This is called aligning. The temporal continuity principle says that students learn better when narration and slides are synchronized. Therefore, you should pause between sections of a presentation. This is called segmenting. And you should be sure that your narration and slides are synchronized. To recap, you now know about the 6 principles involved in cognitive overload and the steps that you can take to reduce cognitive overload when creating and delivering video tutorials for your online learners. Thanks so much for listening.